The siege of Constantinople was not decided by land battles alone. Control of the sea was equally vital, and in the early stages of the siege, Ottoman naval efforts met repeated failure. Despite numerical strength, the Ottoman fleet struggled against the city's defenses and the natural advantages of the waters surrounding Constantinople. What followed, however, was one of the most daring and innovative maneuvers in military history, a strategy that turned naval defeat into strategic victory. The Ottomans entered the siege with a sizable fleet, confident that maritime pressure would isolate the city completely. The goal was clear: cut off all supplies, prevent reinforcements, and force a swift surrender. Yet the waters around Constantinople proved far more challenging than expected. The defenders held a critical advantage in the Golden Horn, a sheltered harbor protected by a massive iron chain stretched across its entrance. This barrier prevented enemy ships from entering, creating a safe zone where Byzantine vessels could operate freely. From this protected harbor, defenders resupplied the city, repaired ships, and launched counterattacks against Ottoman naval positions. Ottoman warships attempted multiple assaults on the seawalls and the chain barrier. These attacks, however, were poorly coordinated and met with fierce resistance. The defenders used elevated positions, hurling projectiles and launching Greek fire to repel attackers. Narrow waters restricted maneuverability, making Ottoman ships easy targets. Several naval engagements ended in embarrassment for the besieging force. Ottoman ships were damaged or destroyed, while defenders maintained control of the Golden Horn. Each failed assault boosted the morale of the city and exposed weaknesses in Ottoman naval command and experience. For Sultan Mehmed, these setbacks posed a serious threat to the success of the siege. As long as the Golden Horn remained secure, Constantinople could survive. Supplies could still enter, and the defenders could redistribute forces with confidence. The iron chain had become the city's strongest naval defense, turning the harbor into an untouchable sanctuary. Faced with this reality, Mehmed made a decision that would redefine the siege. Instead of trying to break the chain directly, he chose to bypass it entirely. The solution was bold, risky, and unprecedented. Ottoman ships would be dragged overland and launched directly into the Golden Horn. The plan required extraordinary preparation. A route was cleared through hills and forests behind the Genoese district. Logs were laid down to create a rolling surface, and grease and oil were applied to reduce friction. Hundreds of men and animals were assembled to move the ships, working under strict coordination. The operation was carried out under cover of darkness. One by one, ships were hauled from the Bosphorus, lifted onto the improvised pathway, and dragged across land. The effort required immense strength, discipline, and secrecy. Any delay or detection could have led to disaster. By morning, the defenders awoke to a shocking sight. Ottoman ships now floated inside the Golden Horn, behind the chain that had once guaranteed safety. The city's strongest naval defense had been rendered meaningless without a single battle at sea. The psychological impact was immediate and severe. The Golden Horn had been considered inviolable. Its breach shattered assumptions and forced defenders to confront a new and dangerous reality. The city was now threatened from both land and harbor. Strategically, the maneuver changed everything. Ottoman ships inside the Golden Horn could support land operations, transport troops, and bombard inner defenses. Defenders were forced to thin their already limited manpower, redistributing forces to protect the sea walls of the harbor. Attempts were made to counter the new threat. The defenders tried to burn the Ottoman ships using fire attacks, but these efforts failed due to poor coordination and strong Ottoman defenses. Once established, the fleet in the Golden Horn proved difficult to dislodge. The success of the operation restored Ottoman confidence. What had begun as naval failure ended as a demonstration of adaptability and innovation. The fleet's presence in the harbor tightened the siege, accelerating the city's isolation. For Sultan Mehmed, the maneuver was a statement of leadership and vision. He understood that victory did not always come from direct confrontation. By turning geography itself into a weapon, he outmaneuvered a defense system that had protected Constantinople for centuries. The Golden Horn strategy also highlighted the changing nature of warfare. Traditional defenses were no longer enough. Creativity, engineering, and logistical coordination became as important as brute force. The operation showed that even the strongest barriers could be overcome with planning and determination. Inside the city, morale suffered. The defenders now faced attacks from directions they had once considered secure. Supplies dwindled faster, and exhaustion spread among soldiers forced to defend extended positions. Yet, as with other phases of the siege, the defenders did not surrender immediately. They adapted as best they could, reinforcing harbor walls and maintaining patrols. Resistance continued, even as options narrowed. Historically, the dragging of ships into the Golden Horn stands as one of the defining moments of the siege. It did not immediately bring victory, but it decisively shifted momentum. Naval failure had forced innovation, and innovation had reshaped the battlefield. The episode demonstrated a timeless lesson of war. Setbacks can become opportunities when met with imagination and resolve. What began as defeat at sea ended as strategic triumph on land and water combined. As the Ottoman fleet settled into the Golden Horn, the siege entered its final and most dangerous phase. Constantinople was no longer protected by the sea. The city was surrounded, exposed, and running out of time.